how to overcome social anxiety, learning the signs, and how to manage social anxiety disorder. Some people seem to have no fear when it comes to social situations and events. They can walk right into a party full of strangers and easily start a conversation. Many of us, however, aren't quite so confident, right? It's normal to feel a little anxious in unfamiliar social territory, or even in familiar social territory. But when those feelings interfere with your life in other areas, it might be something more. Hey everyone, I'm David Yadish, LPCC, and today we'll be answering questions about social anxiety disorder, its signs, causes, they might not be what you think, and what you can do to manage it. Let's get started. Is it social anxiety or anxiety disorder? First off, let's talk about the term social anxiety. It's often used casually to describe nervousness or awkwardness in social situations. Like, I've got so much social anxiety about going to that work party. When someone uses it in this way, it sounds uncomfortable, but maybe not so much like a mental disorder. But the term social anxiety might also refer to social anxiety disorder, or SAD, a serious and sometimes even debilitating mental health condition. Signs of SAD and regular social anxiety can overlap. One overlapping sign might include feelings of unease when anticipating certain social situations, particularly those involving strangers. Another sign might include nervousness that might show up like butterflies in the stomach before a date, a job interview, or public speaking engagement. And finally, shyness that makes it hard to strike up a conversation can be another sign. For people with non-clinical social anxiety, the awkwardness and shyness may subside after they get more comfortable. Or they might be managed with a self-pep talk and a few deep breaths. What are the symptoms of social anxiety disorder? SAD symptoms can show up differently between people, and they often exist on a spectrum. People with SAD might avoid social situations altogether out of intense, persistent fear of judgment or embarrassment. They might experience extreme anxiety in more shallow, everyday life situations, like at the grocery store or at the gym. In severe cases, people with SAD may have physical symptoms akin to panic attacks. These might include racing heartbeat, sweating, dizziness, trouble breathing, gastrointestinal distress, headache, or even trembling. SAD symptoms can persist for years. The diagnostic criteria specifies more than 6 months, and significantly interfere with work, school, relationships, and other day-to-day activities. Most of the time, the anxiety and fear experienced in SAD are realistically disproportionate to the situation. What causes SAD? You might think SAD is caused by 1 or 2 bad social experiences that have stuck with you. That can certainly be a contributor, but it's often more complicated than that. Researchers haven't found one specific cause of SAD, but they do believe it's likely a combination of genetics and family history, brain structure and chemistry, and environmental risk factors. Social anxiety disorder tends to run in families, suggesting a genetic component. When it comes to brain structure and chemistry, some people have differences in the brain structure or chemical imbalances that make them more susceptible to anxiety disorders, including social anxiety. Finally, there are environmental risk factors. Trauma, dysfunctional parenting style, for example, if your parents were overprotective or inconsistent in their parenting behaviors, or being teased, bullied, or humiliated, can all contribute to the development of social anxiety. The complexity of social anxiety triggers. When thinking about situations that might trigger social anxiety, public speaking or socializing with strangers are typically at the top of that list, right? However, some of the scenarios that frighten people with SAD might surprise you. As illustrated in an interesting study published in the Journal of Anxiety Disorders, the researchers found that public speaking, being the center of attention, and participating in meetings or classes ranked among the most common social anxiety causes. But they also largely indicated lower levels of symptom severity. While maybe a little less common, people with more severe social anxiety symptoms tend to fear eating, drinking, using public bathrooms, or writing in public the most. So what does that mean? It means social anxiety disorders can be complex, and triggers and symptom severity don't always align. Someone with severe social anxiety might have fewer problems with a work presentation than eating their lunch in the cafeteria. What are some of the situations that cause social anxiety for you? Give us a shout. We'd love to hear about your experiences in the comments below. Also, if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the BetterHelp channel on YouTube. There, you'll find a wide variety of informative content to support well-being. Can you cure social anxiety? Anxiety disorders aren't typically considered curable, in the sense that they can be entirely and permanently eradicated. However, they are highly manageable with time, effort, and therapy. A trained therapist can help you identify scenarios that trigger your social anxiety symptoms, and perhaps uncover the underlying causes of your SAD. They may use methods like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, and interpersonal therapy, IPT. Some mental health professionals recommend supplemental group therapy or support groups. Groups can offer a safe, supportive environment where you can connect with others who experience social anxiety, practice social skills, and receive encouraging, non-judgmental feedback. How do you manage social anxiety disorder in and out of the moment? Therapists often recommend homework, exercises for their clients to complete between sessions. For example, they may ask you to keep a daily journal to identify when and why you feel most anxious. Record your symptom types and severity, and use that to inform how you'll cope in moments of anxiety. They may also recommend mindfulness techniques like meditation, progressive muscle relaxation, or mindful movement activities such as yoga or Tai Chi. Your therapist might also teach you simple coping skills to use in moments where you're feeling overwhelmed. The first is breathing and grounding techniques. If eating in public makes you feel nauseous, try taking a few deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth while you sit down at the table. Plant your feet on the floor and focus on what that feels like. Focus on how your clothing feels on your body, or the sounds you hear in the environment. Next are mental health grounding techniques. If paying attention to the body doesn't help, or makes it worse, you can also refocus your thoughts with a mental exercise. For example, count backwards from 100, or do simple math in your head. Recite the words to your favorite song, or try to remember as much dialogue as possible from your favorite movie. Finally, there are visualization techniques. Think about an activity you do regularly, even better if it's something you enjoy, and visualize yourself doing it step by step in as much detail as possible. For example, if you like baking bread, imagine gathering and mixing the ingredients. Imagine how the dough looks and feels as it rises, and think about what the kitchen smells like while you're baking. These are just a few techniques in the therapy toolbox. Whether you have clinically diagnosed SAD or social anxiety that comes and goes, taking good care of yourself is key to coping. Care for your physical health and exercise, eating well, and getting plenty of sleep. Care for your emotional health with activities that nurture and bring you joy, such as a hobby, spending time in nature, and connecting with friends and family who make you feel safe and supported. And care for your mental health by talking to a trained counselor. If this video was helpful, be sure to give it a like, subscribe to the BetterHelp channel, and hit the bell to get the latest mental health info. Until next time, take good care.